Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Como Live, brought to you by the Legacy Amendment. My name is Megan, and I'm one of the primate keepers here at Como Zoo. And today we're going to talk about the greatest of the apes, in my opinion. Don't tell those guys over here. But we're going to talk about the orangutans. And along with that, as you can kind of see, there's some decorations here. And that's because it's this little lady right there. You can see the number 6. Today is her birthday. So I'm going to talk about orangutans, and then I'm going to share with you something special, which is Kemala's her birth story. So first off, orangutans. The meaning of the name, or the word orangutan, it translates to person or man of the forest. And orangutans are very different from the other great apes, consisting of gorillas, bonobos, and chimpanzees, in that, well, they're not found in Africa. They are found in Asia, specifically on the islands of Borneo and Sumatra. And they're the largest arboreal mammal in the world. Arboreal means tree-dwelling. And so instead of life on the ground or being terrestrial like you would expect with a lot of the African great apes, these guys are designed to be up in the treetops. And they've really adapted to life in the treetops. Therefore, they are man or person of the forest. And if you look at their feet, you can see they're just like another set of hands. So they really have 4 hands instead of just 2. And that really helps them with their life up in the treetops. Some other things that make them very different from the other great apes is their social units. And orangutans don't live in troops like the gorillas and the chimpanzees. Instead, a typical social unit is a mother, her infant, and maybe an offspring who's still hanging out with mom. And so it's very different. But here in zoos, because there isn't any competition for food, land, all of those sorts of things, they really do adapt to living in these small social groups. And so like with orangutans, we say they are solitary, but they're social. So I'm going to introduce you now to the Fab 4 here at Como Zoo. So we'll start off with the birthday girl. This is our 6-year-old Sumatran orangutan, Kemala. Again, today is her birthday, January 7th. And we have her mother, Marquisa, who is over here eating some birthday cake there. And Marquisa is 33 years old, and she came to us from the Oregon Zoo in Portland many years ago. And I think she's kind of coming around the corner here. You'll see our other adult female, and that is Amanda. A lot of people know who Amanda is. She's quite the crowd favorite here at Como Zoo. And she just celebrated a 44th birthday. So if you look at our social media and you scroll back to December 4th, you might see some pictures from her birthday, and we also have some video. There she is. She's our dominant female, so she has to come out and check everything out first, make the loop, and see if they've missed anything, any special treat that the others may not have seen. And then we have Marquisa's father, and he is Jambu. Is he coming up? Oh, here he is, making an appearance. Right on cue, almost. Jambu is 35 years old, and he came to us from the Audubon Zoo down in New Orleans. Oh, and I meant to say too, Amanda, she was also born at another zoo. That is the Gladys Porter Zoo in Brownsville, Texas. So Amanda, who's 44, she's been here since she was almost 5 years old. And then Jambu and Marquisa came here when they were in their teens to be a future breeding pair. So the orangutans here are all part of the SSP, which is the Species Survival Plan. And it is a cooperative management program for specific species in AZA accredited zoos. And we're really involved in that. I personally am now the coordinator for the orangutan SSP, and I also hold the international stud book for orangutans. So that's a whole nother topic. We're going to instead focus on little Kemala here and her birth story. So like I said, Jambu and Marquisa were brought here on recommendation to be a future breeding pair. And so back in 2005, Marquisa had her first pregnancy. And everything went really well throughout her pregnancy. And the big day came, and she started showing signs of labor. Oh, see, I'm gonna get distracted here because Kemala is just way too cute. So we started seeing some signs of labor, and started the cameras, we're closely making observations. The veterinarian came out just in case there were any issues. And after about an hour, she just stopped. And she went over, grabbed her dinner, was kind of looking at us like, okay guys, you can go home now. Nothing to see here. And then, unfortunately, a couple days later, she passed a stillborn infant. And what we think had happened was, upon examination afterwards, it appears that Marquisa has a smaller pelvis. And so, some interesting things, though, that we saw that were very positive in that unfortunate experience was that Marquisa actually tried to care for that infant. When I came in and found her with the baby, she had cleaned the baby, and they were up in their hammock, their sleeping nest, and she was holding the baby appropriately, but I could see when I climbed up that indeed the infant was deceased. And so we gave Marquisa the time she needed to understand and kind of process what just happened, and kind of let her know, to let us know when she was ready or wanted us to intervene at some point. And she let us know that by later in the day, setting the baby down on a bench. Orangutan mothers never set their babies down, especially those first several months of their lives. And so she set the baby down, and she went to her door, indicating she wanted to join the rest of the group. So then I let her out, and then I was able to go in to retrieve the infant, and we brought the infant to the University of Minnesota's College of Veterinary Medicine, where we have all of our specialists and all of our veterinary work performed for us, and they were able to determine that yes, the baby was stillborn. So it was sad, but again, we saw some positive indications that she will be a good mother when her time comes. So in 2007, Marquisa had her second pregnancy. And in the process of discussing what had happened with the 2005 pregnancy to other zoos at a conference, I came to find out that Marquisa's mother had a history of some stillborns as well. So this was a real kind of red flag for us that, we need to have a plan B. And for whenever we have a pregnancy with a great ape, we write up a birth management plan. And it kind of details, what we're looking for, the dates, the birth windows, what we want to see. We have a phone tree, so we start the phone calls as soon as we see some signs of labor. And we also have backup plans. So of course, in this case, we were prepared that if she did the same thing as she did in 2005, that we might have to intervene. And sure enough, she went into labor and started that same thing where she started the process. She was agitated, clenching her hands and her feet, and showing some other signs. And we basically started the clock and gave her so many hours to try to do this on her own, more than enough, speaking with other experts in terms of how long a normal labor should be. And so then the time came where we had to call it. And she did the same thing. She was actively trying to deliver, and then she stopped. But fortunately, with our behavioral training program here at Como Zoo, these guys are all trained to come up and present their shoulder so that I can give them injections, whether it be routine vaccinations or their seasonal flu shots. But also, if we do need to immobilize one of these guys, we want to make it as low stress as possible. And we want them to have a sense of control too, and that they have to want to participate because we don't physically go in with them. And so it's all voluntary on their part. We just make it very rewarding using positive reinforcement methods. And so fortunately, Marquisa did what she's been trained to do when we work on injections. She presented her shoulder. I was able to give her the sedative, and she went down nice and calmly. So we rushed her right over to the U, where we had, for all these pregnancies with great apes, we have human OBGYNs that we consult with, because being great apes, the anatomy is so similar, the physiology, even, the menstrual cycles and labor too, or I'm sorry, pregnancies as well, is about 8.5 months. So all very similar to humans. And so we had let all of the team that was on standby at the U of M know we're on our way. And so they all gathered there, and we rushed her right into surgery. And fortunately, when they first did the ultrasound, there was still a heartbeat. And so it was kind of a day of, it was an emotional roller coaster, as you can imagine. And so once we, indicated, great, baby's still alive, let's get her into surgery, everything went really well with the C-section. One of our veterinarians is also a large animal surgeon, and so this is really her specialty as well. And so performed it, and then just a few minutes after he was born, this was a male named Jaya, he did go into respiratory arrest. And so as you can imagine, we went from all these highs to lows and highs, and so we actually observed while they were performing CPR on him. And fortunately, they were able to get him breathing, and they had him, all tubed up and in the ICU at the U of M. And came to find out he probably had about an hour left before he would have possibly died as well. And so he had a lot of fluid in his lungs, and so we stayed around the clock with him at the U with all the specialists. And fortunately, just about maybe 4 hours after he was born, he was breathing on his own. He was pulling out his tubes, which is a great sign and lets us know that, okay, we're taking over as mom temporarily. Now you can see Marquisa here. Now it's her turn with the wrapping paper. That's always a really fun enrichment for them. So kind of back to orangutan moms. These babies stay on their moms' bodies pretty much 24/7 when they're first born. And they stay with their moms for up to 7 to 10 years in the wild. And so it's a very close relationship. Mom is the one that teaches them everything they need to know to survive on their own. And so we had to be that mom while the baby was healing, because he still had some fluid in his lungs and was still in, considered critical care there. And Marquisa, she had to recover from the surgery as well. And so we were going back and forth, rotating through teams. We wore an orange furry vest that would simulate, what mom would feel like and look like. And, treated him just like mom would treat him. We couldn't baby him the way, you would a human infant, where you have to really support their bodies and cradle them. These guys, when they're born clinging. They've got that great instinct and reflex to hold on to mom. And so we were very fortunate in that we set Marquisa up to succeed. She was raised by her mother, which is really important for great apes, that they're raised by their own kind. She also saw other females raise babies, because these guys really learn through observation. And then, of course, we had that positive experience with the stillborn, where she was showing a lot of maternal skills there. So we kind of knew, she was gonna be okay, and we started the process of introducing the baby back to her. And so, we started slow. We were always at the zoo once the baby was discharged from the U of M, staying in her area, making sure the baby knew the sounds and the smells, and that Marquisa saw that baby. And we would reinforce any interest that she had in him. And so once we were cleared in terms of the infant being ready to go back to mom, and Marquisa had the time she needed to recover, we started that process. And on Christmas Day, back in 2007, Marquisa took full custody of her infant, Jaya. And this was just 11 days after birth, which is pretty quick. I mean, at the time, it was the fastest return of a C-section infant to a first-time mom. And Marquisa was perfect. She knew what to do through all of her experiences. And so we fortunately heard what sounded like nursing 4 hours after the intro, and then we saw visible nursing about 8 hours after. And so, of course, we did around-the-clock observations for several days just to make sure everybody was okay. So again, that infant was Jaya, who some of you guys may remember. He just left Como in 2019 at the age of 12, where he is now at the Denver Zoo, and he's got a girlfriend of his own. So he's kind of got, they're going to be a future breeding pair. And he's doing great. And that would be the appropriate age, after 10 years old, when he would go off on his own. So let's fast forward to this current girl. That was kind of the backstory. So Kemala here, it came time where, a female orangutan would have another baby, maybe after the current one is about 6 years old or so. And so the time came where, we were given the option of, having another breeding recommendation, because based on her medical history and whatnot, and working with the SSP, it was really our call in terms of if we felt we could do this again. And fortunately, we had most of the same keepers and management, and we had the same specialists and surgeons on board. And so we felt we could do it one more time. And so Kemala, of course, was going to be a planned C-section. We couldn't give Marquisa the option to try to deliver on her own because, number one, we know that she has issues, so she probably wouldn't have been successful, and we would have risked both her and the baby's life. But also, the way they had to do the incision made it so that she wouldn't be able to deliver on her own. So we knew from day one that was the plan with little Kemala. And through our training program, we were also able to monitor the pregnancy, because we did have a couple hiccups where Marquisa was having some issues during her pregnancy, and we were able to monitor everything through voluntary ultrasounds. So Marquisa was trained to climb up the mesh, present her belly, and I would work with her and reinforce her while she held still, and one of our reproductive specialists from the U would come over and do these ultrasound sessions, just so we could make sure the baby was developing well and was safe, and we had all those great indicators of a successful pregnancy. So the big day came, and happy to say we were able to get Kemala back to her mom even faster than with Jaya. In that I had kind of hoped to get Kemala back to her mom after maybe just 48 hours, but Marquisa did have a rougher recovery this second time, and so we ended up caring for Kemala around the clock at the zoo here for about 6 days. So still quick, or I think it was on day 6 was when we were able to get her back to her mom. And Marquisa was funny in that with Jaya, when he was born, and I gave her full access to the baby, she went immediately to him and picked him up, and carried him around and got settled in. Whereas Kemala, I opened up the door and she came in and kind of just walked around the baby. And it was almost as if she was doing this one last lap of freedom. Like, so as soon as I pick up that baby is going to be clinging to me 24/7. And so, of course, she was perfect once she had Kemala, and it was smooth sailing ever since. So that's kind of the story about Kemala. In terms of Marquisa's future, we get asked a lot, is she going to have another infant? You can see a great view right now of Jambu and Marquisa, and you can see they're a really nice bonded pair here. And the answer to that is, we really don't want to have another pregnancy, because, even though these were carefully managed and we had all the right people, specialists, and a great mom, there's a lot of risk there. And so fortunately, Marquisa has had both a male and female offspring, so that genetic line can continue on. And the neat thing is, it doesn't mean that Marquisa might never have another kid, and that the SSP program has a foster program. With baby apes, I indicated earlier that it's so crucial and important that they're raised by their own kind versus raised by us, that if a baby is born at a zoo and it's a mother who's a first-time mom, or there might be some medical issues with the mom, if working with mom repeatedly, they can't get the baby back to mom, and there isn't another female at that zoo that will take over raising the baby and bringing the baby over to us to do bottle feeding and whatnot, then the best thing for that baby is to move to a proven mom. And based on Marquisa's history, having cared for 2 kids that she didn't give birth to naturally, it sets her up to be a potential foster mom. So we'll kind of be waiting in the wings if that ever happens. We hope that never happens because we want all the babies staying with their moms. But Marquise has really proven herself as an excellent mom. And so that's our little story. A lot of people don't know all these special details, and it's really during these interactions we can have with the public and keeper talks where we can tell some of these stories. I hope you enjoyed watching the birthday party. This will probably go on for a while. And just so you can see, we added some streamers. They love wrapping paper, just like a lot of kids. The boxes and the wrapping paper are the best part. So we've got a bunch of that in here. They had special birthday cakes made that are, healthy for them with a little bit of extra treats added, but nutritionally balanced for them to kind of celebrate this big day. And we also painted some messages up on the glass here for them. And we'll continue to celebrate off exhibit as well tonight. I hope you enjoyed this. We're going to take any questions you have in the comment section, and we'll get back to you with those answers. And we hope to see everybody back to Como Zoo very soon. And when you come back, make sure you stop by the Primate House and come see our orangutan family. Thank you.